Hello, everyone. I'm Sam Eckmann of Gold Derby, and I'm here with Miguel Zarate, the choreographer for RuPaul's Drag Race. And I believe this is your first time uh, working with Drag Race. What was it like sort of stepping into this world? It has such a huge fandom, so many eyes are on it. Was it intimidating to take on this big role?
It was in this capacity. I started choreographing for Drag Race actually in season 13.
Wow.
I did one challenge in season 13, but it was still really under the reins of Jamal Sims, who's a father figure of mine and who I
Mhm.
used to assist on Drag Race back like season 9. Uh, so officially getting the title of choreographer and being able to choreograph the entire season, it was a huge undertaking, but something that I had dreamt about for so long. So it was more so than a nerve-wracking. It was really exciting for me.
Yeah. Well, what I'm most excited about as a viewer was I think Moulin Rouge might be the best Rusical that they've ever done. So I would love to hear a bit about that. Were you looking at, because it's inspired by the Broadway version of Moulin Rouge, were you looking at Sonia Taya's choreography for inspiration, or were you going your own way with that?
Yeah, I definitely wasn't looking at her choreography nor any form of
Mhm.
reference. It was advised that maybe I should, but I'm a pretty phenomenal choreographer myself, and so I just wanted to take the reins and have my own creative freedom with it. So I just kind of, not I just kind of, I strongly went with my gut and fully pursued every character the way I had seen it choreographically in my head when I heard the tracks.
Hmm. So would you say when you're working on a piece like that, is it mostly the music that inspires you, or do you get pull from images? Where did you get inspiration for that one?
Initially for this one for RuPaul for the Rusical, it was the music alongside with the script. They kind of came both at the same time. And there was just a little bit of a character breakdown for each character. And that helped guide the choreography process. But I have a big personality myself, and when I was a dancer, I loved character work. So it kind of was a match made in heaven, this musical and my aesthetic choreographically.
Yeah. And it's a massive production. There's so many numbers that go into it. And I know that this show runs on a very quick schedule. So, but how long before you get to the Queens, how long do you have to create this choreography?
Honestly, about a day and a half on my own, and not even to full tracks. Like sometimes like half a track, sometimes the track but not with the queen's voice on it. Um, it's it was crazy. It was crazy, but I had wanted the musical for so long that I knew I couldn't fuck it up.
Yeah.
I felt like I was competing on the show, and I was not competing on the show at all. Um, so it was just something that I had to pull up and do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you had as much time as the competitors on the show, basically. But
Literally, and it can't go without saying that I had an amazing assistant named Jose Tena, who helped me out tremendously in kind of like tag teaming, teaching the stuff.
Mhm.
So when I was working with Deja, he was working with Willow or vice versa, and so that helped a lot with the time crunch.
Well, speaking of teaching it, I would imagine sort of one of the biggest challenges is that you're dealing with queens of all different levels of dance ability. So, how does that affect the choreography? How do you approach it to make sure they all get a chance to shine?
You definitely go in it with like a wish list of moves and creativity that you want the character to portray physically. But then when you're there and you're teaching it to them, I honestly I've let go of an emotional attachment to the choreography. And the second I feel that it's above them or not in their wheelhouse, I tend to switch it right away. Because if they look bad, I look worse,
Mm,
you know?
yeah. So, is it a lot of kind of adjusting things on the fly then?
At times, yes, but for the most part with this cast was pretty incredible. And though though they struggled a little bit at times, certain queens struggled a little bit at times. Ultimately, when I would try to shift the choreography, they were like, "No, don't change it. Like I like it. I'll practice it. I'll get it." So I had to really just trust them enough and pray that the next day was going to be 100 times better. And fortunately, it was.
Well, I always wonder about that. Like when you're in rehearsal with them, is it pretty clear to you who's gonna like really crush the challenge? Like, did you know Lady Camden was just gonna run away with that role in rehearsal?
You know what? No, I did not know that. But I had kind of worked with them a little bit on the girl group challenge.
Hmm.
So I could see who danced better and who danced not as well. So when Camden got that role, I just remember there was like parts of the music that needed filling up. So I was like, Camden, like, give me this, give me that, because I knew she spoke dance language. And so she did it. And then the second I saw that she had full extension and she could turn, I was like, okay, now give me this and give me that. And it was a match made in heaven, Camden and I dancing.
Yeah, she was great to watch.
She was.
And we should talk about the girl group number. I loved that 60s number, which is not all the time, you don't all the time see that on Drag Race. And I think it's, even different from choreography that we're used to seeing from you. So, what was it like diving into a more retro world and pulling from that world?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of fun. And I'm a lot older than people expect. So I'll be 39 in July, and I have two older sisters. I'm the youngest of three. And so I grew, and my parents were like, they're older, they're in their 70s. So I grew up with a lot of like retro shit in my house, retro records, American Bandstand, fucking Soul Train. I would watch a bunch of this type of stuff, and I loved Diana Ross growing up and the Supremes. So for me, it was kind of exciting to let go of trying to be cool with my dance moves and be able to play like a really retro-esque character. So it was a lot of fun for me. It was a little bit challenging for a lot of the younger queens because they didn't really have a point of reference to it.
Mm,
But I was able to show them films and show them clips on YouTube, and they really grasped it like pretty quickly.
yeah. I I would think that's kind of like the opposite challenge of the Rusical because it's maybe, at least on the surface, maybe not a bunch of individual characters. They kind of have to be a united front in their trios.
Yes.
How is that different for you?
I mean, it's all about allowing the queen to put themselves into the character. And I tend to say that a lot of times initially they get really stuck on wanting to do the move as you give it to them. And they forget that they're a drag queen with a huge personality. So ultimately, I want Angie to do it like Angie the drag queen would do it instead of they're so they want to please me, which is how amazing is that? They want to do well, and I think to them initially doing well is doing it just like me, making sure that I give them the gold star. And then what ends up happening is that as the process continues, they forget that they're a star and they
Mm.
need to put themselves in it. So I have a good time reminding them, and then we find a beautiful happy medium where their personality starts taking over the dance moves, and then it just starts looking like it's their dance move, and that's when the magic truly happens.
I've always wondered too, when they're actually recording the finished product, do you get to still be there on set? Do you see Rue's reaction? I imagine he loved
Um,
that one.
yes and no. Sometimes this past season, season 14, I was also choreographing episodes of Mass Singer.
uh,
So I wasn't always able to be there while they were filming it. But there were opportunities and there were moments of the musical that I was there. But I'm honestly like, as much as I want Rue's approval, in the moment, all I'm focused on is seeing the picture with the queens come to life. So if I hear a reaction from Rue, I'm like woohoo. But honestly, I'm like, oh my god, the step, like their formations, what's happening here, what's happening there. So it's difficult to juggle. Not until afterwards when I see them give their critiques and comments,
mhm.
then I'm like, oh, well, that's so cool that she really liked it. But I knew that Rue and the panel were surprised at how elevated the final product was. they were like, wow, this is like insanely good. And everyone on set as it was being filmed was like, this is on one. This is something definitely special. I knew we had something special.
Yeah, it was wonderful to watch. And something the fans, I think, also really appreciated this season was the finale went back to the old format. Instead of a lip sync smackdown, we have actual full choreographed numbers and everyone gets their own song, which must be such a tremendous task for you because it's five very distinctly different queens. Could you just like walk us through what is that collaboration process like with them? Because they have to really show their personalities there.
Absolutely. It initially it starts with a rough draft of the track being sent to me. Mind you, that track, that rough draft has already been kind of how do you say it? Um, the queens have been giving the music producers like the vibe of the song that they want to get, kind of like the lyrics that they want it to be about, and then they produce this song for them. So it's already collaborative between the queens and the music department. Then I get the song, and now I'm hearing the song, and I kind of have a grasp of the queen that's performing the song. And by now it's the finale, so I kind of know them pretty well and what they can do and what they can't do. But once again, in true drag race form, there's never any time. So even if I wanted to give the queen the world and then some, is there really time for them to learn it and execute it the way we would want to? So I took some incentive, and because I knew them already pretty well, I phoned them, and we kind of got on an interview, a Zoom interview, just like you and I are doing at the moment. And I kind of broke it down like, what's your dream? What's your vision with this? And how much do you want to dance? How much do you want it to be character? I had to offer them all six dancers legally. Like, you have six dancers. If you want them, you can have them. If you don't want them, you don't need them. Like, whatever you need. And so that helped a lot. And then ultimately, I was just in the position to kind of guide them towards, a stellar performance, which is easy when I'm talking it right now. It sounds like, oh yeah, totally, how amazing. But having to do so is a lot harder because you want to respect each queen, and it's not three queens, it's five queens. And even if I'm tired, I can't be tired because that one queen is banking on me to give them the performance of their life so that they can like move on to the next. So it was stressful, but I went to UC Irvine and I got my degree in dance back in the day, and we were really well equipped with different genres and styles of dance, both as a dancer and choreographically. So I was excited to be able to use a lot of the things that I had learned then for this
Yeah.
job.
Well, they're so different each one. I think that's why, to me anyway, it was so successful is because it really honed in on what made each one unique. And I especially loved Angie kind of, she in the catwalk challenge, she was sort of hesitant and a little overwhelmed. So it was really awesome to see her come out and just storm the stage and be so confident. What were you able to help her with that sort of little journey for her to be
Yes,
more confident?
you know what's so funny is that we Angie and I always laugh about it, but there was something that I noticed about Angie right away that never made the cut, but I was like, your blessing is that you're so ignorant to the truth of who you are, and like you're not the best dancer, but you don't care. And so we kind of started honing in on that. It's like, Angie, like, give me the steps that you like to do, and then I'm gonna build a circus around you so that it looks like you're doing so much, and I just need you to be fully confident. And so when we got to Vegas, I showed her what I had prepared for her, and she loved it, and she fully stepped into it full force. And by then, I think the queens feel they've watched the season, and so they already feel so much more confident, and they've studied themselves, and they know themselves a lot better. So for a lot of people, it was a shocker to see Angie in such like diva form, but I had already seen that off camera, and so I was excited for the whole world to get to see it.
Yeah. And I loved the comedy number too with Willow's "I hate people." I think will live in infamy. Uh, what is it, because that one is much more about her personality, her face. How does that differ for you choreographing that number versus Angie's?
Um, Angie's is like something that you want to see at the club, and then Willow's is something that you want to see in a theater in kind of like a cabaret type of vibe, something inner, something smaller and more intimate. But I relate more to Willow's number. It's more my aesthetic, and so I just remember us having the communication and telling each other that we have to make it so dumb that it's great. And to me, that's the funnest type of movement. So it was, honestly, that was the most natural. How funny is that? For me, that was the most natural to choreograph. And she's great. You know, she actually has a lot of dance background
Yeah.
experience.
Well, before we have to wrap up, I would love to have you talk about your aesthetic a little bit, because if you watch this show, it just seems like, well, Miguel can do everything. So how do you describe yourself as a choreographer? How do you think of your approach to choreography?
I definitely feel that I capitalize on creating classic movement and movement that can last a lifetime. I try not to be trend heavy unless it's something that I really enjoy. Um, in my younger days, in my 20s, I was very choreographically, I was very gay heavy and femme heavy. And I just kind of wanted to push those boundaries. And now as I get older, I tend to want to leave a more classic legacy, something like Fosse, like something linear, something that no matter when you see it, you're going to enjoy it, and something that people want to see at home. So I think classic with an edge is how I would describe my choreographic aesthetic.
Oh, classic with an edge has a good ring to it. Well, thank you. I can't wait to see more of what you do. It's really fantastic work. So thank you, Miguel, for talking Drag Race with me. Everyone who's out there watching, subscribe to Gold Derby. Stay in touch with us. Thanks again, Miguel.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.